Greetings, geeks. Welcome to episode 605 of Geeks in Space. I'm Rob Commander Taco Malda, and I am unsurprisingly joined today by two of the greatest geeks whoever you're going to meet. Pretending that we're in low Earth orbit. I can't talk today. Chris DeBona.
Hi.
Rob Roseboom.
I'm not surprised I'm here.
It's what you do on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And many Fridays.
Yeah.
And Wednesday nights.
Rob, have you watched The Fisher King yet?
Of course I've watched The Fisher King.
Excellent. That's my afternoon, hopefully.
I was worried that it wouldn't be as good as I remembered, but I found it delightful as always. There's only one little part that we'll talk about that would be problematic in this day and age, sure. I think.
For sure.
I don't believe we're streaming, just for the record.
No, well, I'm recording, and it says I'm streaming somewhere. So
okay, well, as long as we're somewhere.
That's right. I'll upload it in a half hour, and it won't matter. Let's see. The Lord of the Rings, they got greenlighted for a $465 million budget for one season.
You know,
it's not a scratch.
Are they saying this is the most expensive season of television ever filmed?
You know, I don't know how you'd compute that because everybody
using
is
a calculator.
Yeah. Well, but Game of Thrones, they've talked about how their production budget was on the same level as major movies. But also, these seasons are, maybe it's 6 episodes, maybe it's 12. We don't know. Although I would hope it's not 6 episodes if they're spending $465 million on it.
No way. Those episodes would be awesome.
So apparently the Hobbit trilogy, which was terrible, cost $623 million to film. So,
and that sounds about right. I mean, $200 million is like the big blockbuster budget these days. Like they talk about like the Snyder Cut, like they had to put like an extra 75. Nobody knows how much, but they had to put like an extra. It was like an extra $100 million, $120 million for Whedon, and then like another $75 million or something for the Snyder Cut, and then that was on top of the original like $220 million. And I assume those are like the most expensive movies ever made.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I enjoyed The Hobbit, right? And I liked Middle Earth as much as the next nerd. But doesn't this seem a little much?
I mean, look, this is what movies are becoming. We're making the transition that the feature film that cost you $250 million and was at the center of the cultural zeitgeist for even in the biggest examples. The biggest examples would be Avatar and Endgame. Those, like, Avatar lasted a couple of months. Endgame lasts maybe a month. WandaVision lasted 2 months, where, for what, 6-7 weeks, that was a major topic of discussion, driving interest in a paid service.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where the prestige goes.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is the movies up until now have source material for them. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
is this after the Lord of the Rings? Before.
Yeah. They're setting it like 1,000 years before.
Kind of like the Game of Thrones prequel thing. Yeah.
But it's going to be I think there's a couple of characters who would theoretically still be alive. Gandalf, I think Galadriel.
Probably Legolas.
No.
He's an elf. They probably live forever, go through time with their power of shiny locks and good looks, But yeah.
I hate Orlando Bloom because he'll always be sexier than me.
Did I tell you what happened when I went and saw Lord of the Rings at our local Placerville movie theater? This is like, I don't know, 20 years ago.
You saw Lord of the Rings in the movie theater. It was 20 years ago.
Yeah. So I went and saw it, and I was sitting there, and I was kind of the only person in the theater. This is one of those classic, my kids are really small, and I just needed a few hours to myself. And my wife's like, go to the movies. I'm like, okay.
Oh, right.
So I go to the movies, and it was great because lights come down and you're just like, this is so relieving. There's no one crying in my ear. This is fantastic, right? And then these 2 teenage girls come and sit right behind me, and they're just chatting away the whole time. But honestly, it was still better than infants, right?
For sure.
And And so I was listening to them, honestly. And every time Legolas came on screen, I could hear them going through puberty. Like, they were like, oh my God, he's so good looking. He's so pretty. It's like the whole movie. Every time he came on stage, there'd be like this gasp. And I'm like, what is going on behind me? This is, whoa, dude. You know, I'm here for the dwarves and elves with the swords and the fighting and the rings. But
right.
Wow. Okay. You know.
Are you saying they didn't appreciate his archery skills?
They probably didn't even notice that he had a bow and arrow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're like, Ringways, get out of the way. We're trying to look at the elf.
Mostly interested in his beautiful wig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so funny though. I was practically crying. It was so funny.
I mean, I assume that what they're gonna do is take a few dozen pages out of the Silmarillion and, you know, then write a whole bunch of fan fiction around it.
That's what they did to pad out The Hobbit.
Yeah. Oh, so that worked out fine.
It was so bad.
Oh, so bad. All right.
Okay. Well, hey.
FTP turned 50 years old.
The File Transport Protocol.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
It's older than any of us.
I wonder if people are still using it.
Yeah, they are.
Dumb places.
I know. It's still used in tons of places. I have FTP servers running on my home network.
What? Why?
Raspberry Pi. I have some Pis. Yeah. I have a Pi, a couple of them that have ROMs on them for classic retro gaming. And FTP is just an easy way to get files on and off.
Cool.
Because I don't, you know, in fact, I don't even know if those things have SFTP. I mean, I guess they assume they have, but I don't know if they've got the ports open.
Look at this stuff. These are all the open FTP servers.
There are so many.
I have to wonder. The FTP servers I always go to for Linux were like the Wisconsin one, the UNC one.
I hit the UNC one a lot.
Yeah, boy. Good times.
Good times. I always loved when you'd be puttering around on an FTP server and you'd find the dot directories. Like,
yeah, right?
This is a secret. I'm not supposed to be here. And then you'd be like, oh,
very exciting.
Dot secret. And then in there's dot Juarez and, you know, dot porn. And you're all like, I'm 20 and this is bad.
Well, what's funny about it is I remember, I just remember FTPing around and you would do it inside your browser if you didn't have an FTP client installed. Yep. You know, you're like, oh, I could apt-get it, or I'll just use Mosaic, or, you know, whatever, because they would support the FTP colon, you know, protocol.
Yep.
Stanza. So, oh well. Happy birthday, FTP. I'm almost as old as you are.
Yep. And way more people are using FTP than us. It's kind of depressing. So, Ingenuity, the helicopter got up off the ground.
Yes, there's a chart. Let's bring up the chart.
Yeah, I put up the chart. There's a video, but because it doesn't have a lot of frames, it looks like Harryhausen stuff. It's like kind of jiggling around. I was like, great, the moon truthers are gonna look at that.
So it made it to about 10 meters, looks like. Sorry, 10 feet.
10 feet, yeah, 3.5 feet, 3.5 meters.
Good for you, little robot.
You can do it.
You can do it. So if the atmosphere is 1/100th of what it is on Earth, when does ground effect stop helping?
That's true. How much higher can it go?
Because ground effect is a function of density and altitude, right?
Yeah.
And if,
Interesting. I don't know.
Well, that's great. I'm very happy for our little robots on Mars.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that they do something cool with that. I hope that we get some really sweet videos. It is funny to me because, you know, I have a little drone, and I just like the idea that, you know, we spend hundreds of millions of dollars to put a little drone on Mars, and, you know, it's going to make little videos for us.
Yeah, like and subscribe to their videos, you know.
That's right. Smash that like button. Love, Death, and Robots is getting another season. I think 2 seasons now actually have been confirmed.
How was the first one? I didn't watch it. I know.
Me either.
Was it any good?
Scalzi wrote a couple episodes, right?
I'm sure it's worth watching them. Was it good? Did you like it?
I did. So what's cool is that each of the episodes are like experimental animation styles. So if you're interested in animation, just like the art of it, like some of it's way more 2D, some of it's way more abstract. But if you like that, and I'm all in on that. 2 of the episodes.
So not to date myself, but it's like liquid television.
Yes. Although liquid television would change from one scene to the next, and these are more like each episode. They're almost more like sci-fi short films than liquid television sequences. But several of the episodes are really good. Scalzi's episodes are actually really good. Charming little silly robots. If I remember correctly, there's like 6 or 8 episodes, and I think that Kat and I were really happy with like 5 of the 8, something like that. But it's cool because they're all standalone. There's no. If you don't like one, you can just move on to the next one, after 5 minutes and go about your day. But I found them to be very excellent sci-fi and very cool art styles for some of them.
Nice.
So hopefully those will happen soon, and I'm looking forward to it tremendously.
One thing we didn't list was the 2 shows, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Invincible. So we should talk about that later.
Absolutely. I have opinions. Well, let's see.
Oh, do you?
I do. So the Tesla crash. I don't know what's going on with this story, but I've seen a couple of versions of it. But the one that I linked, the cops don't think anybody was sitting in the driver's seat.
Yeah. They were talking about the driverless features of their cars, and one guy was in the back seat and one guy was in the passenger seat.
Yep.
And I think he just jammed a Coke bottle or something, or was tapping the wheel from across the way. I have no idea how they got past the seat sensor, but...
So there was a Twitter chain, and I don't know if it was this one. Oh, Envelope is noticing that we're not live, that the stream is not going out. There was one article that was talking about how a guy was talking about the ways that he was messing with his auto driver, and he was showing that he could get the auto driver to engage. Because one of the things that Musk said is that you can't auto drive unless you can see painted street lines. And this guy was demonstrating with his camera phone, no, look, I can engage it. Like, he was pointing his camera at the console and at the road. And it's like, it'll let me turn on right now. I'm not going to, but I can. So, I mean, I don't know. That's a weird...
This is like when you heard about the guy who was watching Harry Potter when he ran into that truck. You're like, you can't trust this auto drive system that much. It is not smart. It's same like the guy who died in California. He had complained about that very same gore point.
Yep.
Where we went off on the flyway, and yet the next day he was reading a book.
Yep.
While driving down the road. It's like, stop. This is borderline suicidal.
Well, that's the thing.
You cannot trust this technology that much.
We get lazy, right? Like, we get complacent.
Yep.
I don't know what kind of irresponsible person reads while they drive or watches a movie while they drive.
But it's a good thing that the live stream is not happening, because he might try to join the call.
Well, no, I'll listen to movies. I'll listen to podcasts.
Sure.
I'll listen to audiobooks. That's completely reasonable. I mean, I've been driving a long time. It's okay for me to listen to YouTube streams, right? But I flip the phone over so like the little flickery won't distract me.
Yeah.
It's...
Yeah, I mean, that's no different than listening to talk radio.
Yeah.
So,
well, I would say it's better because talk radio is infuriating.
It depends on what talk radio.
And hate speech that shuts off when you go under a bridge is not very satisfying.
Right? I want to hate all the way through the bridge. Ain't nobody got time to not be hating.
Come on, what's going to happen to the global conspiracy of lizard people when I go into a tunnel and then come out?
Yeah. Well, it's a sad story, but like, it does, man, it's going to be a weird one. I look forward to them figuring out exactly what happened. Shang-Chi, I know zero about Shang-Chi. I've never read a Shang-Chi.
And that's the point. I don't know why in this phase Marvel has decided to take, at best, B players and try to make shows around them so far to begin with. I mean, even Vision and Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, aren't hugely popular characters. I know they were in the Avengers, and some people know them, but to the layperson, if you were to say, name some superheroes, they could probably name some of the Avengers, but not Vision and Scarlet Witch. And Shang-Chi is even more obscure.
For sure.
So
a lot of Phase 4 is like that, though.
Yeah.
You know?
I know. It just,
like,
I wonder, like, it would be okay if they were all stellar, I think. You know what I mean? Like, you could start fresh without any preconceived notions, and you could tell some probably really good stories with these characters. WandaVision was pretty good for that, I thought. And Winter Soldier is not very good for that, I think. So,
well, I mean, this is a really good point. So, if you look at each of the phases, they had the sort of the tentpole movies, and they had the Ant-Mans. You know, then they had some things they weren't sure would become important, like
but Guardians of the Galaxy was probably the biggest of those dice rolls.
It was a dice roll, right? But then they surrounded it with Iron Man Drunk Edition and, you know, the other movies that mattered to people, frankly, right? That they knew were going to matter. They knew they were going to make money, that they could put literally anything on screen and people would go see it.
Right.
And that's what they did with Iron Man 3, right? And yeah.
So this has always been the premise of the Marvel thing. Marvel's thing is like, they're like, we own 3,000 characters. And I'm like, yeah, but you know, nobody's heard of 2,985 of them.
Yeah, but a lot of people hadn't heard of Iron Man before they pushed him, right? So they're and the thing is also, you know, maybe we don't care about Shang-Chi. Maybe there's like a huge market in Asia, because this guy's like a superstar in Asia, Simu Liu.
Sure.
But like,
well, this is, well, they like, I don't know anything about that. I've never read Shang-Chi. I think I've read some various comic books where he shows up as like, you know, in one panel.
He's basically Iron Fist.
Yeah.
He's the son of Fu Manchu.
Yeah.
The illegitimate son of Fu Manchu. He's basically Iron Fist, but he doesn't have mystical powers. He's just a really, really good martial artist. In fact, the greatest martial artist ever, because he can fight superheroes. He's so bad, but he's just a guy. You know?
They show one shot where he's wearing what looks like Wakandan.
He's wearing the 10 rings.
Is that? Oh, those are the 10 rings. There you go. So he gets 5 for each arm. Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Well,
so if you cut an arm off, though, he's
double strong.
Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Five Rings.
Double strong. But Awkwafina is in it. I like Awkwafina a lot.
She's like a bridge actress. People really like Awkwafina, so they're like, okay, we'll give Shang-Chi a chance. You know?
Yeah. I think that what's going to be the real trick for this movie is that there are still, and we are mid-April, they are still planning on releasing 4 Marvel movies into theaters before the end of this year. And I suspect that this could be the one where people are burnt out and they move on.
Well, also, at least for me, this goes back to probably one of the most tired premises, right? Like, the only reason Iron Fist, the only reason this guy exists is because at one point Bruce Lee was the most famous man in media, and
he was
pretty the coolest, and everyone wanted to have a comic book or a story about him, and that started the whole kung fu craze.
Yeah,
if it wasn't for Bruce Lee, this guy would not exist. You know?
Right. Well, that's true of a lot of the characters came out in the 60s. These guys, those two, I think, are both 70s guys. But like Guardians of the Galaxy, those guys came from all over the place, right? Some of them
were
really
70s,
old.
right?
Some of them are really old, I think. But the lineup of Guardians of the Galaxy changed, and I'm not sure what the original lineup was. But anyway, I will see this movie in a movie theater, even. You know, should that be practical? Hey,
well, okay, so we have Black Widow, Shang-Chi, The Eternals, Spider-Man, which everyone's going to go see.
Yeah, that's a given.
Doctor Strange, which I'm going to
That's next year.
You're right, that's next year.
Yeah,
but Spider-Man is still slated for late December.
I know. They've got 4 movies coming out yet this year. It's crazy.
people are going to see Black Widow, right? But that's going to be simulcast on Disney Plus, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they will.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that the simulcast thing and but that they moved it to July. I think by then,
it's July 9th.
I think by then there should be enough of a population vaccinated that that it'll be possible.
Well, they're gonna have that on streaming too.
Sure.
So
I mean, again, it's Black Widow. I don't know how compelling her story is, right?
Well, then, so in that case, you're leaning on, does Scarlett Johansson and the legacy of Black Widow and the connections to the MCU, does that give you enough?
Unfortunately, I honestly don't think star power is as powerful as it used to be.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not.
So that doesn't matter as much anymore.
You know what star power didn't do? It didn't stop the plague. It didn't stop the pandemic. You know, they tried with their singing of Imagine, and it didn't stop shit.
Well, also there's, you know, quite frankly, off the top of my head, I can think of 3 different movies about a orphaned Russian girl who was taught to be an assassin.
Yeah, right.
So
I mean, it's basically not like Nikita. It's, you know, there's so many movies that focus on the female assassin who's reluctantly killing all these people,
as opposed to the literally thousands of white males who've had both of their parents murdered and yet somehow have huge fortunes.
Oh no, and a lot of those are not watchable either, Mr. Malda.
Yeah.
Okay, so as far as like the worst trailer that I saw this week, though, it had to have been Songbird.
Have you seen this? No.
No.
Here, I'll paste it in.
I don't even know what Songbird is.
Michael Bay, at the beginning of the pandemic, decided that he was going to create a COVID-23 action movie.
Oh.
About like a huge amount of the population is dead. Another part of it is quarantine, and there's like a police force that takes people from normal housing into the quarantine zone, the Q zone.
The Q zone.
No, seriously, it looks terrible. It's very Michael Bay. There's lots of explosions, and Peter Stormare's in it. But like, yeah, go watch the trailer because you're just like, oh boy, tone, Michael Bay, tone. You know.
Hey Chris, let's check the Bezos earnings calculator.
Oh, is there a Bezos earning calculator?
Yeah. Let's see how he's doing.
Oh boy, he's making a lot of money.
Yeah.
Oh look, there's a little thing growing there at the bottom.
Give us that tab.
Oh wait,
so we can.
Here you go. I'll reload it so that.
Yeah. There we go.
There you go.
And then we
really
can
get the full.
While that's running, we can talk about the next story on the list, which was the IBM.
I saw this. It popped up twice on Hacker News.
Yeah, it was showing up. It's a weird story and kind of made me grouchy.
It's really weird because I have to tell you, IBM. Say what you will about IBM, they have enough lawyers, right? They have a process. Right. So if you wanted to commit code to the Linux kernel, I mean, going back to Trigil 20 years ago plus and all the Linux Care or Linux Labs guys in Australia, there was a process, right? So this is just super weird, right?
Right. Well, what's weird to me is that this is specifically about his email address and credit. This is about IBM wants credit for somebody who's presumably been doing patches on the kernel for a long time, and my guess is that he's.
This is the sentence that jumped out at me. Right. First of all, their manager who wrote this, you have to speak very precisely when talking about these issues of intellectual property in a big company, frankly, and this is not very precise writing. You are not allowed to use your personal email account as a hobby. I'm like, there's so much to unpack there.
Yeah, that sentence is really, flat out wrong. I am 100% allowed to use my personal email address for whatever I want because it's personal. Right. Your sentence is fundamentally wrong.
Well, so I hate to tell you this, but even that's a terrible interpretation. Right. So it's like, first of all, you're not allowed to use your personal email address as a hobby. What does that even mean?
It means
to
nothing.
Use an email address as a hobby. Like, oh, well, I have my hobby email address that I only use when I feel like having a wild lark and using, this dumb website.com as my, it doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah, no,
because the thing is, if this person was basically employed and under contract to work on VNIC for IBM, is he saying, I want you to use your IBM address when submitting kernel contributions about VNIC, because it's important that we have that chain of copyright for that code, because that's the contract, right? Or are they saying, so this is what's going right behind us. Are they saying that, you can't work on the Linux kernel because you work on the Linux kernel at IBM and those patches have to go through our process, period, end of sentence? Or are they saying you're an IBM employee 100% of the time, you will never be releasing a single line of code, period, because of your employment status, wherever the hell this person lives? It's like there's so many things that are messed up about this story, because honestly, working for a really big company, these questions are extremely complicated. Sure. And they involve both your local laws, your employment laws, your employment contract within your employment region. I mean, it's a very difficult issue to unpack, and this just sounds like everyone wants this simple ass world, and I'm like, sometimes it's complicated.
See,
right?
So here's my theory.
What's your theory?
Here's my theory. Somebody up the food chain. Maybe it's the first guy up the chain. Maybe it's two guys up the chain. But somebody has a bonus. And somebody's bonus is tied to a metric. And one of those metrics is patches to open source projects attributable to employees in this group. And this is the best way that chain of command could figure out, because maintaining a list of email addresses would be hard. Now they can just regex ibm.com domain names and call it good. I think that somebody, because we've all been in this situation, right? Where you have a manager who has a bonus structure, and their bonus structure requires something which is either impossible or represents a fundamental misunderstanding of the thing that they are managing. Boy, I could tell you stories when the stream is turned off.
Well, so I can personalize this. I have people asking me all the time how they can get credit for their open source contributions inside their internal promotion packets and performance review packets, because they want credit. They want Google to value this stuff. And similarly, Google wants to know, right? Google managers of all stripes want to know what their employees are doing, right? So that they can A, reward it, or B, guide it towards a more productive path. And sometimes, I've had managers come to me and they're like, listen, I've got an employee, they're not doing shit on my project, but they're claiming all this victory for doing this stuff in this open source project, that open source project. And then I have that very difficult conversation with them saying, it's fine if they're doing this open source stuff. We encourage it and all the rest. But if they're not doing the job that you are telling them to do, you need to fire them or get them to do the job you want them to do, and this open source stuff has nothing to do with it. It is literally just bad management at this point, and it's a very difficult conversation, because they're like, I want you to tell them they can't commit to open source software. And I'll be like, in some cases, I can't do that because of their employment status and where they live and all the rest. I will tell people, and I have told people dozens, hundreds of times, like, do your job first and make sure, because the rewards of doing your job well here are substantial. And that's how you get promoted, is you do your job well, right? And then, because I can tell you, a lot of managers, you improve some node library that they don't give any shits about, it's not gonna reflect well on your promotion case.
No, it doesn't help their bonus structure.
Well, it doesn't help their bonus structure, but it doesn't help the employee, so.
Now, it's all about incentives. And when I see stuff like this, when I see something like this, it says somebody's incentive is different than somebody else's. And I don't know if it's the dude at the bottom who's leaking this message. If it's a dude
pasting an email externally.
Yeah, that's not cool. And then, or if it's the guy above him, or if it's the guy 2 clicks above him who just laid out a bad plan. But that's a decision.
It's perfectly reasonable option, I think, too, that someone just got to be in their bonnet. That we're like, people are wasting time at work. And
I'm paying this guy a lot of money, and look what he's doing.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
and like, charitably, the other thing I was like, the thing that IBM worries about in cases like this is getting sued, right? So there's a virtual network interface, right? And they want to make it more performant on this or that hardware, this or that software package. And, maybe they actually are paying somebody else. They're giving them code, and then this person is taking that code and putting it into the Linux kernel. Because you remember the SCO case. It was a contractual case. Sure. SCO is arguing that IBM had been taking SCO technology that they had been exposed to and were putting it into the Linux kernel without their permission, right? And so is this smelling like that? Did they have some deal with some network equipment manufacturer to basically take their code and put it into the Linux kernel or not put it into the Linux kernel? And like, I just think there are so many layers to this, frankly, this fucking mess that I'm like, oh, what a mess,
This is, again, like one of those things, like, we'll never know the total truth because everybody has different incentives in this.
Well, and everyone has a different perspective on it.
Right. And, there's
everyone is an unriable narrator.
Yeah. All right. Hey, how much money has Jeff Bezos made since we started?
$1,814,000.
Good for him. That would feed a dozen families for a year.
Is this tied to Jeff's holdings in Amazon? Is Amazon going like if Amazon were to dip?
I think it's just averaging. I think it's just averaging.
I imagine it would have to, right?
Well, I mean, if it was honest.
It runs even when the stock market is closed, so it's not anything more complicated. All right, Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Sure.
What do people have to say about last week's episode?
Still boring.
Yeah, I wish there would have been. See, the interesting part of it is this transformation from hero to villain, right?
Sure.
And I wish more of the story would have been this. But because it's handled so quickly, and so we're like, oh, well, now he's, he doesn't have a vibranium shield anymore. He's going to make one out of sheet metal.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about? How's that going to work?
But he's all serumed up, so he'll be fine.
Yeah, so the serum's permanent, or does he have to do boosters after 4 weeks?
No,
it depends if he got the Moderna or the Pfizer serum.
Yeah,
the Johnson & Johnson serum. Yeah.
The Hydra super soldier serum.
Yeah, that's a 2-shot.
A bunch of them, well, as you see, a huge side effect is having all the skin on your face fall off.
Right. Don't take the one that turns you into a red skull. That doesn't look good in class photos.
Well, I mean, I guess Zola fixed that one when they gave it to the Winter Soldier because he still has his face, right? So.
Yeah, it's just, there's certainly worse superhero things for you to watch. This one just isn't great.
Yeah, it's a bummer because in the last
it's
year,
bordering good, I would say.
So this last episode was interesting to me because I thought that 2 episodes ago was actually damn entertaining and I was enjoying it start to finish. This one, I felt like half of it just didn't need to be there. Like I feel like, and maybe there were 2 more episodes worth of material that they trimmed out and like things are clumsy. Or maybe they didn't have enough material, so they just shoved in an extra couple of half episodes worth of material, and so what we have feels clunky. But it just doesn't feel... WandaVision, except for the last hour or so of WandaVision, it felt like everything that we were seeing had a point. Like a writer's room, sat down, wrote it out, made a plan, structured a story, and then executed.
It was all connected, made sense, and was good. Where this, I understand that they're trying to tell the story arc of this guy, but the way they've done it so far, for me, felt like this last episode was the end, right? It was the end of one story. Yeah, it felt like
the end of the series.
Yeah.
Right? And then they started to make another short story that is going to go, 3 episodes? I don't know how many episodes are left.
1.
One?
Yeah.
There's only 1?
There's 1 episode left. Yeah.
It just...
So
this one's really a clunker.
So either they threw in 10% more puzzle pieces than they could deal with, or they pulled out 10% of their puzzle pieces, and what was left behind is not clearly recognizable as the puzzle that they were trying to build, or they just weren't really that good.
I was pleased to see, however, that Elaine showed up, because I always thought if anyone should get the super soldier serum, it should be Kramer.
Right?
You imagine Kramer, a jacked up Kramer. Yeah.
No, even better would be a super lazy Jason Alexander.
There we go. Like, Super George.
He's like, look, I can open up this can of beans. This is fantastic, and then he'd eat the beans.
I'm just sitting here eating a block of cheese stripped to my waist with super soldier serum.
Super soldier, Jerry.
And eventually they put Newman, they digitized Newman and put him in a big robotic suit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, he's just,
Mecha Newman.
The Seinfeld cinematic universe could be a thing, gentlemen. That's all I'm saying. And it would be more entertaining than the Winter Soldier.
It would be, yeah. So, I don't know. Come on, the repair of the shrimp boat, that was like 10 minutes of riveting.
That was a lot of buddy montage. And okay, so montages.
And again, where the hell was Pepper Potts?
Montages have a tradition in the MCU. We've watched, Iron Man clank out building various suits over the years, Sure. But this, I don't know, man.
So I will say, I did actually really like the Isaiah Bradley stuff.
I do too.
Isaiah Bradley.
But so far they haven't done anything with it.
I mean, well, the thing is, it's like he gives this whole speech, and you're like, man, they treated this guy like crap. And I get how a black person would be like, Captain America, slavery, my ass, right? But like, dude, and then he's like, yeah, well, the old man was right, but I'm still gonna take the shield. And then they had the whole like, basically, what I learned from the last episode of Fat Man and the Winter Soldier was that if you're a really solid ultimate Frisbee player, you're Captain America.
Oh yeah, that's half of it.
It's like Frisbee golf. Yeah, come on, you're the one. I'm like, what is going on? This is so dumb. And also, like in the first episode or two, you saw him doing a great job, and then they had a montage of him learning how to throw the shield. I'm like, we already know he knows how to throw the dumb shield.
Also, can we talk about how if you don't put the padding on the trees, you're in danger of having the shield actually embed in the wood, and yet you can catch it with your bare hand on the edge, and that's fine.
Look, Sebastian Stan, super soldier, one arm, metal arm, other arm, no problem. You can catch that shield all day. Sam,
Captain America,
super soldier,
he can catch it. Yeah.
Sam is a dude.
Yeah, and it's great that he can get sweaty and work out and stuff, but come on.
Yeah, it just seems like they didn't know what stories they wanted to tell, so they threw all four in the movie and try to crank them
I feel like they just put one too many puzzle pieces in the box, and because they had one too many puzzle pieces, they just couldn't figure out how to put the puzzle back together again. But I'm not sure if that's because they had to rekajigger the storyline because of the vaccine thing or the pandemic thing, because everybody's saying that there was a big pandemic plot line that got pulled out.
Yeah, they got pulled out viruses.
And I mean that would make sense because the thing about WandaVision is that people basically say there was supposed to be a bunch of stuff in the last episode to give closure to characters that didn't get any. But that was because they couldn't get people on set during quarantine.
I was more entertained by just the dumb Agatha song than by the entire run of Falcon and the Winter Soldier or Eagle and the Spring Chicken. We should come up with better names.
So I think that I think the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a good example of something else that goes back to earlier. We talked about The Hobbit. If you've ever watched the Tolkien cut of The Hobbit, where they take all three 3-hour Tolkien movies and cut it down to one 2-hour movie, it's a watchable thing. I wonder if you can cut Falcon and the Winter Soldier, throw out 2 of the plot lines, and leave behind a good 2-hour movie.
Maybe
possible, but I'm not optimistic that Pheasant and the Auto Policeman can get past it.
On the other hand, I continue to like Invincible.
Invincible's awesome.
Invincible is, there's a reason for that, because Invincible is
gory.
Amazing. Okay.
You're supposed to wait until you've been saving that button for somebody to save Invincible.
I've been saving that button.
Nice. Now I feel like I should do it too. I don't have it though.
Well, it seems like you're from criticism.
Yeah, so. It could be.
I love the way they use the title card. Yeah. I think it's really fun. I look forward to it every episode. I love this show. I have to tell you, I have nothing but knowledge.
I love that they're gory. I love that they're telling a story that feels honest for like how loony it is. I feel like there's a lot of honesty in like who these people are, like the corruption and the dark shittiness.
For me, it's the fact that they make fun of all the comic book tropes, and yet have a decent, heartfelt story at the same time. Yeah, it's perfect. It's everything I want. You know.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's so what is it? Deconstruction, but still being the thing that it's deconstructing. It's well done. I'm enjoying.
And I'm worried about Monster Girl more than I've ever been worried about anybody on Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
If she's getting younger every time, eventually they're going to have just like Monster Girl in diapers running around. That's no good.
I just hope she can recover from the horrible attack from Beastman or Beast guy, whatever his name is. You know.
And I hope that at some point somebody gets their head squeezed until it explodes like a bloody zit all over the world.
I've already had a couple of those.
I know.
It's a Kirkman thing. You know they will do that. Kirkman loves eyeballs popping out.
Yep.
Yeah, it's his thing.
Can I add some gore?
Boy, it's so good, though.
All right. Let's say goodbye so I can upload this thing and go about, $4 million. I have not made $4 million since we started reading this page, guys. I feel like I squandered 41 minutes and 30 seconds.
I'm guessing that your bank account isn't.
far from.
Yeah. All
right. Goodbye, Robert Wisboom.
See ya.
Goodbye, Chris DeBona.
See you, everybody.
This has been episode 605 of Geeks in Space. I'm still Rob Commander Taco Mold, and I'll see you tomorrow night, 8-ish. We're watching Fisher King. Definitely.